do it.
So let me just publish it then, inshallah.
45 minutes, yeah? Blitz, Sheikh, man.
8 rak'ah. It was like, there was no time to breathe.
MashaAllah, man. Wicked, man.
Huh? Khatam is done.
Ready to go, yeah?
Yeah, because,
Alright, Sheikh.
Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alright, we can actually remove these, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters at home. Welcome to another episode of Ask an Imam, where we, myself and Imam Osama, take your most pertinent questions that you wish to ask us and answer them, inshallah, to the best of our ability. Obviously, Ramadan is right around the corner, so the subject of today's sessions is all going to be about Ramadan. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Hopefully your questions will revolve around Ramadan also, but if they don't, inshallah, we'll force them to be about Ramadan as well, inshallah. Sheikh, how you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Are you all set for Ramadan, Sheikh?
Well, we hope, inshallah. We'll only know when it starts. When did you have prepared?
Yeah, Allahu Akbar, for real, man. For real. There's always this sense though, Sheikh, of like inadequate preparation, right? Like even though you're trying to get in the mindset, you're trying to develop some habits and trying to do certain things, when it comes down to it, you get to Ramadan and you think, you know what, I'm not ready for Ramadan just yet.
Yeah. But
do you get that as well?
I think that what happens is that once Ramadan begins, even if you have not made much preparation before it, the fact that you know that the doors of paradise are open and the doors of hellfire are closed and shayateen have
Allahu Akbar.
It kind of motivates you and it says, you know what, I've got no excuse now, and you just gotta push through those first few days, you know, have a plan and carry it out, and you know once 2-3 days have passed, you know it becomes routine and it becomes easier to
What if the plan flops, Sheikh? What do you do? What if the plan flops? What do you do?
If the plan flops, you have to offer 2 rak'ah salah. Because if your plan is not working out in Ramadan, it means that Allah is depriving you from gaining from Ramadan. So there must be something that is causing that. And this is why the ideal thing is, once the announcement of Ramadan is made, so let's say, for example, most likely we think that Ramadan will begin on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
With the announcement made.
تنبؤات Sheikh.
on
Sheikh has seen the moon, man.
No, I looked at the Fiqh Council of America. Obviously, they based their on calculation, and they said it's definitely on Tuesday.
Yeah. Something like that in Australia as well. They're saying that it's definitely going to be. That's when they are going to be able to.
And generally, sightings are in accordance to those calculations. So if it's Tuesday, what to do? The best way to begin Ramadan. Obviously, Ramadan will begin Monday after Salatul Maghrib.
Yep.
The best way to begin is perhaps after Maghrib Salah, take a shower, a ghusl.
Nice.
Right? With the intention to cleanse yourself from sin.
MashaAllah.
And then offer 2 rak'ah Salatul Tawbah.
Allah
and seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, your month has come, you have allowed me to live until this month. Forgive my sins, do not make my sins an obstacle between me and your pleasure. Enable me and ask ability from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, not just the things that you think you can do and you can commit to. Have a conversation with Allah Azza wa Jalla and say, look, this is the plan that I've put in place. I want to do khatam of the Quran, I want to give sadaqah every day, I want to do this, I want to do that. Please allow me to carry out this plan and give me the tawfiq, strengthen me against my nafs, my desires, my laziness, carelessness, against shaitan. And if you're sincere, then Allah Azza wa Jal, it is the month of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was extremely generous in Ramadan, and Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the most generous, shows even more generosity in Ramadan. So if we are sincere in our in this offer 2 rak'ah and then make dua to Allah in it, make it tawbah and ask for tawfiq and ability to but tawbah means that you have firm intention not to go back to the sins, at least those that you can help, right? Whether those are major sins or minor sins. and anything that leads to sins. And commitment to reduce eating and drinking, and to reduce sleep. You know, in the sense that it should be just for necessity. You know, 6 to 8 hours, that's it, no more than that. Not when Ramadan begins, you have certain people who start to sleep 10 hours, 12 hours. They're making up for the sleep of the whole year.
Yeah. I've taken some time out from work for Ramadan.
Just sleep. So 6 to 8 hours, that is your necessity. It shouldn't go beyond that. And also reducing entertainment, Sheikh. You know, back in the day, I still have this vivid image. Used to go to people's houses, and on the TV there was a musalla.
Wow.
You've never seen this?
I've never seen that, no.
Okay, during the month of Ramadan, there was a musalla on the TV.
Subhanallah,
So
the TV's praying.
That's it. It's Ramadan now.
It's in Taraweeh all day.
Yeah. And you know, the older generations, maybe the previous 2 generations,
That's
they
amazing.
took this very seriously. And this was not like religious people, you know, extremely just regular people. Just knew that Ramadan, no TV. The problem that we have is that in those times there was no mobile phones, or there were no smartphones.
Yeah.
So when you put the musalla on, or dupatta, or whatever you want to call it, on the TV,
hijab, innit?
that was the end of it. You know what I mean? The only thing that you had left is radio. And now in radio there isn't much, because you're not viewing. You know, you can listen to the news, and
it's
all
very
of this
easy
is
to
fine,
your attention is elsewhere.
So, but now you've got to put a prayer mat on your phone.
Subhanallah, little sock.
So
Put a
just,
sock in it.
you know, people who have a habit, social media has to be, you know, your sort of, it should only be for interactions with people that are family and friends, and that's about it.
Or for learning or something like that, if you listen to a talk or...
Yeah, absolutely, YouTube and this, that, you know.
But that requires self-discipline, Sheikh, man. Like, you're going to be left to your own devices then, right? And, you know, your Nafs can trick you into thinking that, oh, I'm just gonna listen to a talk by, you know, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, or Imam was gonna go do his bayan after Asr. Let me just tune into that, and then after that, it's just like scrolling, you know, NBA clips and stuff, and all these other like highlights of sports and stuff.
Yeah, you need to be careful, because you know, unfortunately, we don't value our life. That is the truth. We don't value our time.
Wallahi, sahih, man.
But we, you know, at the very least, you know, if we can do it just for the month of Ramadan, give Ramadan its value, and don't waste it doing nothing. And especially something that is going to lead you to haram. Do you know what I mean? If you feel tired, okay, you don't want to pray salah, you don't want to read Quran, just sit and make some dhikr. You don't even want to do that. Just sit and contemplate the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is ibadah in its, think about your death, think about your life outside of Ramadan, how you would like the changes to happen in your life and what have you. Or just rest, idle, don't do anything. At least you're not going to come across sin. It's not going to tempt you to commit sin. And if you realize, if you take a moment for yourself and you sort of say, you know what, I don't want to watch TV, I don't want to use my phone, nothing, I just want to sit on my own. You're not going to spend hours doing it. You do it for half an hour, maybe, you'll nap for a little while or whatever, and then you'll come out of it and to do something, because not doing anything is no longer an option. We are so accustomed to doing something all the time, you know, being entertained.
That doing nothing drives us crazy.
So doing nothing and just sitting there is like, what?
Drives you crazy. I know people, Sheikh, just like that. They would sit there, if they got nothing to do, they would just literally, they'll be so agitated, so angry, so easy to...
Yeah, that's sad.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, just chill, relax.
You don't enjoy your own company. And if you don't enjoy your own company, what is there to say that about people not enjoying your company?
Allah.
If you're not at peace with your own self...
Drop the bomb, Sheikh, man. That's crazy.
But yeah, so things like Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, definitely the stuff that's not beneficial, that doesn't have...
TikTok is haram in the I'm telling you.
What about the shorts that they do on their, Sheikh, man? Like little reminders of like 10 seconds, 20 seconds.
Even that is not allowed. Right? Things like TikTok, Snapchat.
Yeah. These platforms, Sheikh, they're designed to keep you engaged for as long as possible. not necessarily to give you information and to entertain you or
Just
to
stay
any
on
of
the
that stuff.
app.
Just as long as you're on there for as long as possible, by any means necessary. That's what their intent is. So yeah, you got to be wary, man. Self-discipline, inshallah, when you're on this stuff, guys. Should we go on to the questions, inshallah? Assalamu alaikum, Imam. Wa alaikum salam. Please kindly advise us how we can fight our nafs during the month of Ramadan. This is the biggest challenge we face, especially in Ramadan. So fighting the nafs, Sheikh, you have to use gloves, special gloves, or is it just like
Put your gloves on and your what do they call it? Mouth
your
guard.
your gum shield,
Gum shield.
Allah Akbar. Metaphoric, obviously. Your metaphoric gloves and your metaphoric gum shield.
Get in the ring.
Allahu Akbar.
It's funny because the month of Ramadan is actually there to tame our nafs, but our nafs is so wild and out of control. Even Ramadan does not tame it.
Really?
It tames it for a little while, but it's not enough, because the intent of Ramadan is to reduce food, water and sleep in order to weaken your physical self, so that the nafs cannot pry on that, right? And does not sort of because most of the shahawat that we are inclined to are physical shahawat. Very few people have like mental shahawat. You know, they have they enjoy playing games and things like that, but generally it's all physical. You know, eating, drinking, so on and so forth. So what happens is, if you reduce your food intake or your sleep, then your body does not have the energy to get excited about the shahawat.
Yeah.
That's the idea. So the best way to do it is reduce food intake in Ramadan. You know, all of this special Ramadan foods needs to go out the window. Don't make Ramadan about foods. Don't make Ramadan about the special dishes and, you know, the fry-ups and
it's like an entire menu for
samosa
30 days
and
of different dishes.
Yeah. It's sad, because then, you know, Ramadan becomes about food, whereas it's supposed to be the opposite. You don't eat, and you're supposed to skip a meal, not rearrange your meals. Not that you eat 3-4 times a day. Now you're just gonna eat 2 times a day, but you're gonna eat the same quantities or even more.
I'm gonna make up for it.
You're just rearranging your meal times. That's not what's wanted, but rather skipping a meal, which means that overall your food intake should be lower in the month of Ramadan, and this will reduce, inshallah, if done properly. It will also reduce your time that is spent sleeping and idle doing nothing, and then you need to control the gaze, control the gaze from halal and haram. Do you understand?
Okay.
Because the nafs needs to be tamed. So the way to tame it is not to allow it to enjoy physical pleasures. Looking at a tree can be something that the nafs enjoys. Looking at a nice house, looking at a nice car, you know, don't look at anything.
ولا تمدن عينيك إلى ما
متعنا به أزواجا منهم زهرة الحياة الدنيا. Allah did not say women, He said the beauty of the world. Don't look at the beauty of the world, except if you are looking with how Allah has created something, with the eye of, you know, the sight of contemplation. Then it's a different matter. So controlling the gaze, controlling speech, not to talk. Don't talk for the sake of it. We're not talking about don't say things that are haram. So ghiba, namima, foul language and what have you.
But then talk too much of...
even the normal talk, don't talk too much, because that is another pleasure of the nafs. You know, we just like to talk or listen to gossip and talk and about worldly matters, because they're important to us. So don't involve yourself in talking. And this is a teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said to a Sahabi, لا تكثر الكلام بغير ذكر الله فإن كثرة الكلام بغير ذكر الله قسوة للقلب. Do not speak excessively without mentioning the name of Allah. for speaking excessively without taking the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes the heart to be hard.
Yeah.
Why? Because you are going to talk about shahawat. And shahawat are what? They are a fire. And that fire burns your heart and your heart becomes hard and stiff. Whereas the heart of the believer is supposed to be soft.
And also the ramifications of a hard heart, because this is quite foreign language, right? To maybe a lot of us. The ramifications of a hard heart, it means that when it comes to the reminders, when it comes to the ayat in the Quran or the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you're less inclined to listen to them, and you're less inclined to adopt them, and for that sort of speech to settle in your heart. Actually.
So it's like, you know, the example that Rasulullah ﷺ gave is in the hadith, مثل ما بعثني الله به من الهدى والعلم كمثل أرض. That the heart is like a land. Now lands have different, there are different types of land. You have the soft land that receives water, and you know, because it is soft, it will produce something. You know, if there is good seeds planted in it, then fruit, vegetation, whatever. If not, then just grass or, you know. But there is something being produced. And then you have the hard land, you know, concrete land. You can pour thousands of liters on it.
Nothing's going to grow.
Yeah, and this is what happens. If the heart becomes hard, then you listen to the verses, you hear the stories, you read the hadith, and no access.
No access, man. And then the akhirah becomes less and less important. The deen in your life becomes less and less important. And then before you know it, you know, it's a gradual process of leading towards kufr and disbelief in the end because of your shahwat.
Dying completely.
Yeah. ولكنكم فتنتم أنفسكم وتربصتم وارتبتم وغرتكم الأمانية حتى جاء أمر الله. So it's in stages. وغركم بالله الغرور. So stages, and it gets to that stage where you no longer believe, you no longer have iman in your heart, and it all started because you allowed yourself to get into this fitna, which was the shahwat, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
the way to fight the nafs, Shaykh, the simplest way is you've got to do the opposite of what you want to do.
Allah.
I feel like doing this, do the opposite.
That's hard, Shaykh. That's very hard. But this is what the mashayikh used to talk about as well. They talk about in their books. This is what the turuq are all about as well. When you take on a teacher and they're teaching you the ways of your nafs, it's everything. It's all mukhalafa, isn't it? Like whatever you feel like doing,
don't do it.
Yeah, do the opposite of doing that. Yeah.
They went to the extent of even ibadah. If your nafs says, I want to do dhikr, say no, you're reading Quran.
Allah. That's another.
If it says, I want to read Quran, you say no, you're going to pray salah.
Not that reading Quran or doing dhikr is a bad thing. It's just.
But it's just teaching it that you're not in control. I am in control. I tell you what you're going to do.
SubhanAllah.
But if our nafs actually starts to say to you, I want to do dhikr, that is a good nafs. Right? That means it's getting tamed, like it's softening up.
Yeah, comparatively speaking, of course. Yeah. SubhanAllah. There you go. Another question, Sheikh, is which is better, reading Quran in Arabic or reading its translation and understanding its meaning? This is a famous question, quite often quoted, Sheikh. What's your take on it?
Throughout the year, I think both are important.
Yeah.
Because Quran speaks to the soul and it speaks to so the soul and the heart, and it speaks to the mind.
Allah.
In the Arabic language, this is the original form in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran. So when you read it, it nurtures your soul, your ruh, and your heart. But when you read its translation, it nurtures your mind, right? It is food for thought and contemplation.
Because you understand it, right?
And the mind is a channel to the heart as well. That is not to say, you know, they're exclusive in any way. However, you will benefit from reading the Quran in the Arabic language in a way that you will not benefit by reading its translation, right? If that was the case, then we would have been commanded to pray salah in, you know, recite the translation of Fatiha, because you understand that. You don't understand the Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You understand?
Yep, I do.
Or would be given the freedom to memorize surahs in your language. Memorize them in your language. You don't have to memorize them in Arabic. Only the Arabs should recite in Arabic. So it's not only for your mind and understanding. There's much more than that, right? So throughout the year there should be time given to recitation in Arabic and recitation in English, or reading the translation and contemplating. During the month of Ramadan, you can do both. You can do
It's
both.
difficult to say which one is better. I think it's probably based on the person, isn't it, Sheikh?
Yeah.
The person who finds recitation easy and can just, mashallah.
Then they should recite.
Yeah. So they recite copiously, but they can also delve into the translations because reciting for them is easy. But the one who finds recitation difficult, then they should they can focus on that a little bit more, because reading the translation might be sort of second nature to them, easy for them. So that's sort of pushing themselves to do better, pushing themselves to learn, pushing themselves to, and this is the prime time to do it, because you don't have, or you shouldn't have anyway, if you are going to be putting the musalla on the TV and stuff like that, right? You're not going to have the same, and putting a sock on your phone, you're not going to have the same distractions as you do in any other time. So it all depends on the person at the end of the day, what they feel and what they feel they're getting the most out of as well. Because some people can read the translation, it doesn't really, for me, translations they just don't, even though they're really, really beneficial, mashallah, right? And they're fantastic, but they don't hit it off as much as if I read, the Quran itself.
Yeah,
and
there's a spiritual sort of gain from reading the Quran in Arabic. So, personally, I would say, if you can read fluently, then focus on reading the Quran and leave the translation. Do that outside of Ramadan. Gain most benefit. Ajr, there's more reward in reading the Quran. And then guidance, because Allah Azza wa Jal says it is guidance. Quran is guidance, whether you understand it or you don't. It is bringing nur and light into your heart. So if you read with that mindset, then inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala you should benefit from reading the Arabic more. But when you're reading the Quran, there is a certain adab and etiquette that is required, that is not perhaps required for reading the translation. So when you get tired of reading, so begin with your day with reading the Quran, or the time that you have allocated to the Quran, begin by reading the Arabic language, the Arabic text, make wudu, sit facing the Qibla and read. Once you get tired of that, then maybe pick up a translation. Now you can relax and read that translation. You don't have to have wudu, you don't have to be seated facing the Qibla. You can just lie down, and it can be a way of just relaxing, but still involved in some form of ibadah.
MashaAllah.
And if a person does not cannot read fluently, or they find it very difficult to read, or cannot read the Quran at all, I would suggest that they listen to the Quran. See, everybody has to do a khatam of the Quran in Ramadan. This should be everybody's aim. The minimum is one khatam. Either you do it by reading it yourself or by listening to it. It's not difficult. You download a recording of the Quran, a reciter that is that recites quite not too fast, but Shaykh al-Muhaysini or certain Qurra like that. They have a quick recitation, and listen to one juz every day.
Or listen to Shaykh.
40 minutes every day. We will have, inshallah, after Salatul Asr, we'll have the halaqa, which will be online, and then after that we will recite one juz, beginning from the first day of Ramadan, one juz every day, so that hopefully we'll make a khatam at the end. But for people who are working during those times or what have you, they can listen to it, they can access it through YouTube outside. Listen to a full sort of khatam of the Quran and read it in English in your own time.
MashaAllah. Shaykh, how sick do you have to be to skip fasting? So you have this fasting is obligatory upon everybody except for the one who's traveling and the one who is sick. So the one who is sick, what is the threshold that you're sick enough to skip fast?
It's difficult to say, Sheikh, but in general, the exemption of the sick from fasting is the one who either he or she fears for their life if they fast, so they have an extreme condition, they have to take medication, for example, and if they don't, then there's a likelihood of them dying. This is one. This is the extreme.
Okay.
Then the next way down is the person who, if they fast, their recovery is going to be delayed. Their recovery is going to be. Sorry, Sheikh, I have to.
No worries.
This is my father. Their recovery is going to be delayed, so that person can also eat during Ramadan. Or generally, if there is, let's say for example, you've begun your day, you've started fasting, and you just have a feeling of uneasiness, and you get a very strong headache. You've tried having a nap or what have you, and it hasn't helped. Then I guess you can break the fast. Yeah. So if you're finding it difficult to continue with your day, due to whatever it is, lightheadedness or extremely sort of overpowering headache, and
so it can be anything on the spectrum of
it can
what
be
is
a
considered
flu,
an illness,
it can
right?
be a cold,
it could be a back pain or something like that that you need to take some sort of tablet
medication for.
So there's no set like, okay, a headache onwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything below a headache is, it doesn't really work like that, does it?
But you have to remember that Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. To fast is better. So there is the dispensation, however fasting is better. The only time where fasting is not better is that a medical professional tells you that by fasting you're going to die, or you're going to delay your recovery.
It's going to get worse,
or you're not going to recover during the whole month, and your recovery will only begin
as a
after
result.
Ramadan. So in this case, then it is better for you to eat.
Okay, cool. What if two different masajid in my area are ending Ramadan on different days? So you got like a masjid here is doing Ramadan on Tuesday, and then a couple of roads down you have another masjid and they're doing it on Monday. What do you do, Sheikh? And let's say you live right in the middle. It's 5 minutes that way, 5 minutes that way.
Yeah, just don't listen to both. Do it the third day. Do your own madhab. Okay, so if both masajid, and you sort of sometimes you go here, sometimes you go there, you're free to take the safest option, do the earliest one. I guess it can't be wrong.
That's only if you can't yourself like look into it and stuff, and
absolutely,
you're not convinced by one or the other.
Do not have that sort of.
So to make it easier, isn't it? These sorts of like criteria are put in place anyway, just to make things easier for people. So just follow your local masjid, go to your local Imam, your local prayer time calendar.
Generally,
that sort of thing, right?
we sort of go with. You don't go with the masjid that is local to you. Not in relation to moon sighting. I don't think anybody has used this. I think that's where the confusion comes from. In relation to prayer time, you have to look at the masjid where you pray, because your salawat are there, right?
Right.
You're going to pray Isha there. Let's say, for example, they've got advertised that Isha is at 9:40, like our masjid, right? 9:40. But your Isha time, according to your calculation, begins at 10 o'clock. You still have to pray at 9:40. You're not going to miss Jama'ah in order to pray your own at home. There's no other masjid available. So we said just go with the prayer time of your local mosque. But with the moon sighting issue, it has nothing to do with your mosque, because it's not connected to salah. And the masjid is salah, right? So matters of salah, yes, you look at your masjid and you go with it, because you're going to pray your fajr there, your dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha, and so on and so forth. But moon sighting, look for an authority in your area.
Shouldn't the masajid be that authority? Shouldn't there be something that the masajid
Not all masajid are an authority, because certain masajid don't have Imam Hamid.
Get me gassed.
They don't have Azhari scholars. No, but for example, what I mean, Whitechapel Mosque or Central Mosque, or just pick one and just generally go with their announcement, or even a TV station, like Islam TV or something like that.
What is this Islam channel, Sheikh?
Islam channel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Clearly doesn't watch it.
Islam channel or whatever it is, and just follow that.
Yeah.
But generally in Europe, mostly people are following, either they're following Morocco.
Yeah, I think
and they're following, or they're following Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think there's a different trend coming, especially in these latter years, of setting up some sort of ru'ya authority here in the UK and basing their, because obviously there's a difference of opinion whether if you're in a different country or a different time zone and that country on that time zone sights the moon, are you obliged to follow their sighting, or do you have to follow your sighting of your local area?
No, actually,
right?
we know that from athar that it's not the case.
Yeah.
It's not the case. The sighting of one place has nothing to do with your with
the sighting of yours, right?
Fasting.
Yeah. So there's a general trend based on that, Sheikh, of here in the UK people wanting to have their own sort of sightings of the moon and not necessarily rely on information coming from the Middle East and coming from North Africa and stuff like that.
You see the clouds that we have.
Ain't the moon out there.
The committee that is trying to do this, or the group of brothers, our
Sha'ban is 30 days every year.
Every year, yeah.
Allahu Akbar. So yeah, so there's the
no, but that's a good. I think that's really
absolutely
good. We need that, because we cannot rely on other countries that are thousands of miles away from us, because as we said, it goes against the tradition.
Yep.
A Sahabi radiallahu anhu, was traveling. I think it was Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu asked this person who traveled, and he asked him regarding when Ramadan was in a different city outside of Medina, and it was 2 different days.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Allah Azza wa Jalla, Rasulullah says, "Sumu li ru'yatihi." Right? Every individual is under this command that when you see it, fast. Or when you don't see it, continue and finish Sha'ban 30 days.
فأكملوا شعبان عدة 30. Alright, cool. Sheikh, what if, during the month of Ramadan, how can you make the most of the month, and how could you go about breaking bad habits? I'm sure the latter is what most people are trying to do in Ramadan and at other times. Is it okay to watch? Oh, sorry, no, that's a different question. Yeah. So, what's the best way to make the most out of the month? We kind of covered that in the previous. I think the main thing is breaking the nafs, isn't it? That's the only way you're going to get the most out of Ramadan. Otherwise, Ramadan is going to be just like every other month. Only you eat and drink a little bit less. That's about it. So breaking the nafs.
And that's the fear, Shaykh. Rasulullah said, رُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشِ. That a number of people will be fasting and will gain nothing from their fast except for thirst and hunger. And رُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرِ. A person standing up and praying Tarawih 20 rak'ah or 8 rak'ah and doing full Quran khatam, Rasulullah says he gains nothing except for staying awake at night.
Lack of sleep, yeah. Insomnia. That's all sahar, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So involving ourselves, look, there is, I repeat this time and time again, there is no secret formula.
There's no special dua that you can make,
There
Shaykh.
is no special
Give me a
dua.
tasbih, man, little ta'weez or something like that. I can put it on my neck.
I can blow something on you and you
Do a shit.
just fly. There's no special formula. It's very simple. Follow the fara'id. Fulfill the fara'id to the best possible way. Right? Your fara'id, your fajr, your dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha. If you pay your zakah during the month of Ramadan, then your zakah. Your fast, do it in the best possible manner. Meaning, do your suhoor a little bit early. Stop eating 5-10 minutes before fajr time begins. Time of iftar. Break your fast immediately. That is the sunnah. Breaking your fast with dates and water. That is the sunnah. Lowering your gaze, protecting your sight, your hearing, your mind, your tongue.
And making conscious effort to do these things as well, Shaykh. Not just
So this is doing your faridah to the best possible way. This is the fastest lane, fast track to Allah Azza wa Jal. We are looking for all these du'as and ta'weez and all of this. But this doesn't help. Fara'id, brothers and sisters, fara'id. The problem is that we don't feel anything when we're doing fara'id because we don't do them to that caliber, to that level.
Allah
Just Allahu Akbar, salamu alaikum, salamu alaikum. One of our teachers used to say, up, down. What is it? Up, down.
In, out, shake it all about.
Up, down, turn around, back to town. It's like...
That's a proper Yorkshire.
Proper Yorkshire one.
Yorkshire one, that is.
Yeah.
Allah Akbar.
But the point is, focus on your farida. And then once you, at the same time, add some nawafil. Nawafil, pray 2 rak'ah sunnah of fajr, pray 4 rak'ah before dhuhr, pray 2 rak'ah after salatul maghrib, pray 2 rak'ah after salatul isha.
Real talk, Shaykh, man.
Pray your tarawih after isha, your witr after isha. These are your nawafil in relation to salah. Then give sadaqah every day, even if it is £1. Read some Quran every day, even if it is a page. Do some dhikr every day, even if it is just 100 times astaghfirullah, 100 times chanting salutation upon Rasulullah, 100 times la ilaha illallah, 100 times subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. 100 times لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير or له الملك وله الحمد وعلى كل شيء قدير. 100 times some dhikr, and then some dua. Some dua after every fard salah, 3 minutes dua. After fajr 3 minutes, after 3 minutes, make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. Ask for the blessings of this world, the blessings of the hereafter. Seek protection from the harms of this world, the harms of the hereafter, and the pains of the hereafter. Seek forgiveness. Include the Muslim Ummah in your dua. Ask for guidance. Ask for tawfiq after every salah. And also do it, prior to Maghrib. When you sat there looking at the time, 10 minutes left. You just keep on going inside the kitchen, ask your wife what's on the menu. Just sit and make dua and seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so these are the things. Fara'id, voluntary acts by offering more nawafil, and your tarawih, your witr, sadaqah, and recitation of the Quran, dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. Make dua, stay away from haram as much as you possibly can. Right? And don't give in.
That's another one of the fara'id though, isn't it? That's a fard. Stay away from the haram.
Yes. Yes.
So get your fara'id right.
Staying away from haram is far more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than spending nights in nawafil.
Allahu Akbar.
You stay away from haram.
Real talk, guys, man.
Right? You're walking the street and you come across a sight that is haram, looking away and averting your eye is better than you going and giving sadaqah £100 that day. Allah doesn't want your sadaqah. He wants you to stay away from haram first, then your sadaqah. Commit to the command of Allah that He has made an obligation, and stay away from what He has forbidden. This is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And certain salihin would say, you know what, you don't need that many voluntary deeds. The purpose of voluntary deeds is to make you aware of Allah Azza wa Jal. See, the purpose of that dhikr and the Quran and the dua and the nawafil is that you become aware of Allah so that you don't sin. That is the purpose. But if you're astaghfirullah, 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 and you are in a gathering of ghiba, what use is that astaghfirullah?
Wallahi, sahih, Shaykh.
Okay, you gain the reward.
That's crazy, man.
But you are not gaining the benefit of the istighfar.
عجيب. Famous hadith, Shaykh. ما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي
مما
افترضته عليه. That no servant of mine has ever come closer to me with anything that is more beloved than what I have obliged him to do, the obligations. So fara'id, everyone, that's the quickest way to benefit from Ramadan, inshallah. Alright. Let's have a look, Sheikh. What else is happening? In Ramadan, is it okay to watch or listen to religious talks instead of personal worship? Which one's better, I suppose? Learning?
Do both. Exert yourself in personal worship. Shaitan is very clever, and the Nafs wants to just change. It's so accustomed to entertainment, it still wants entertainment, but let's just make it a religious one. So outside of Ramadan, that is a very good thing to do, right? So outside of Ramadan, I usually watch, Coronation Street and EastEnders or whatever.
Is that by way of example, Sheikh? Or like,
That's an example. Everybody's saying
is the whole room just went, right? Mom's up?
Pose. Imam's jobs on the line.
Ethan.
No.
Wolford or
I'm giving an example. Allah Akbar.
pin dropped in that.
Right. So outside,
That's brilliant.
If I'm accustomed to watching these sort of soaps and series and Hollywood film and Bollywood film and all of this, and actually say, you know what, I'm going to stop all of this, but I'm going to look for alternative entertainment. So I'm going to look at Islamic comedy or Islamic series or things like that, or talks, and I will look for some of the mashayikh that are a bit funny and what have you, lightheartedness and all of that, and I'm going to change this with that. This is very good outside of Ramadan. It is very good outside of Ramadan. In Ramadan, don't watch a lecture just for entertainment. If you're going to watch a lecture, it is with the intention that I am going to implement this, or I am seeking to understand the Quran. Right? So ulama when Ramadan came, the ai they would stop their teaching of fiqh and hadith and all of this and focus on Quran. All tadris and teaching and everything was about Quran. Right? So if you're going to watch scholars and what have you, then it should be about Quran.
Nice.
Right? And a number of ulama have explanations of the 30 juz. Every day they will pick a certain juz. Sheikh Nu'man Ali Khan is very good for that. And every year he comes up with different aspects, different verses, different contemplations. This is very good, but only do that when you get tired of the ibadah, because obviously ibadah is not an easy thing. Right? You start reading Quran, you think you're going to read 3 juz, but by the time you get to 1, you're starting to...
I'll take a little break. Half an hour, and then that half an hour break the rest of the day.
So if you take... the first thing is, exert yourself in ibadah. When you get tired of ibadah, either rest or, if you want to have active rest, then watch a talk, something that is Islamic, that is going to motivate you for your next bout of ibadah. Not that you sit there and, oh mashallah, this talk, that talk, this talk, that talk, Maghrib time.
It's
you're
like,
doing that from Dhuhr till
it's been
Maghrib
such
every day.
a beneficial day. I've listened to so many talks, but what I can remember from them is nothing.
Exactly.
Remember that joke that the Sheikh dropped, right? So just balance it, I think, isn't it? Between personal worship and those talks, inshallah. As long as those talks are for educational purposes and not necessarily for entertainment. Alright, should we avoid social media? Yes. As the content and people on social media could tempt you to haram. Yes, absolutely, man.
Not only that, you have no control over it. No control over it. Like we said,
the algorithms are mad.
Other than WhatsApp, where you're messaging your family and your friends and what have you.
There's little benefit, man. Even like the WhatsApp statuses, you end up just like flicking through.
I think that's a waste of time.
Just to get that green button off your off your status. Get rid of it, man. So there's very, very little benefit in all of this stuff. I mean, the whole thing about how social media companies are always peddling this thing about how we're connecting people and connecting people with people that they want to be connected with and stuff like that. There's certain limitations of being connected to imagine being around people all the time. You have no alone time whatsoever. You're constantly around that, not just around the people, around the same people all the time.
I personally don't feel connected, to be honest with you. When somebody calls me on, social media or even a phone call, I can't wait for the person to hang up.
Just cutting them off. Okay,
You know what I mean? You come and visit me, I'll sit with you all day. But you give me a call, anybody who speaks to me regularly on the phone will know that. It's very short. There's no...
Sheikh cuts me off all the time, man. I'm like, so Sheikh, I've got this thing, right? We're doing the masjid and yada yada. And all I hear is... So, okay, I'll see you later. MashaAllah. All right. We know that when traveling, one is exempted from fasting. Back in the olden days, when things were black and white, people used to travel by walking, by horse, hence it took a long time. Now, in the modern age, we have cars and aeroplanes. So in terms of the Sharia perspective, up to what distance one has to travel to be exempted from fasting. So so obviously fasting, there's this thing in fiqh where you have like arba'atu burud. There's a certain distance, it's like 50 miles in some of them that I hear.
Yeah, 48, 50 miles.
Yeah, something like that, right? So so they have this like this set distance that they put. So if you cross this distance, then you can shorten your prayers, you can break your fast, and some of the ahkam of fiqh come into play. And then pre that distance, those ahkam aren't into play. Now, obviously, traveling then takes time. It's difficult, and traveling in and of itself, it was madhinnat al-mashaqqa, right? That's what the fuqaha say as well. That anything associated with traveling is always associated with hardship, because traveling in olden days, as the questioner puts, is horseback. There isn't, it's not 100% safe. There isn't police like walking around and all over the country. They're mainly in the cities, but outside in the countryside, there's qutta' turuq, there's people there who are, highway robberies and stuff were quite common, and unless it was like the main highways that people used to, like the Silk Road and stuff like that. But otherwise, there was a lot of danger with regards to traveling, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of hardships associated with it with regards to provision and yada yada. This goes on. Now, I can go from here to Manchester in a couple of hours, right? I can go from here to another continent in the same day and arrive in the same day, and I leave when it's the light of day, and I arrive and the sun is still up. So does this have any bearing on whether there is hardship involved or not, first? Secondly, can we then change the whole idea or the concept of distance and no distance and shortening the prayers and breaking the fast and that sort of thing? So when does the ahkam of fiqh change as a result of the ease of travel? I suppose that's what we call the question.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because look, when Sharia gives a dispensation, then that will remain regardless of the changes of time. So one may say that in this day and age, traveling is a lot easier, and people. So the physical difficulty is not there, but the mental difficulty is the stress of traveling is not. You've got a train, you've got a coach, a plane. You've got a time that you need to get there by, and what have you. You're driving. You need to concentrate. Do you know what I mean? So the dispensation is there. It cannot be removed. You cannot say that, now if you're not traveling for a whole 24-hour or 12-hour period, then you can't do that. However, already the verse of the Quran says, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It is better for you. So something that Allah has made permissible, you're free to take it. Even if you're traveling just the 50 miles, it's fine. You want to break your fast, but you're losing out on the reward. You're losing out on getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He says, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. When Allah says خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, it's definitely خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ from a perspective of akhirah and reward first. Then it is خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ from a physical perspective.
But this concept of distance, Shaykh, as well, it's more of an evolution of fiqh, as opposed to like that particular distance being set in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So the concept of burud wasn't necessarily there. They didn't have burud,
but then
right?
So the idea is that the fiqh perspective is that Rasulullah ﷺ considered traveling when you would travel for 3 days, right?
Yeah, there's a.
Now, where would you go if you traveled for 3 days today? You'd be in the moon, on the moon, right? Or
maybe does it take 3 days to get to the moon?
I think not even that.
Takes less,
not even that. Yeah, you fly from here to Australia in like
Who's been to the moon
15 hours. Do you know what I mean? So you'd go around the whole earth, and you're still not considered a traveler.
Subhanallah.
This is why ulama say, actually, we'll look at the distance, we won't look at the time.
So that's my point exactly, Shaykh. So the evolution of fiqh is that it's no longer it is what happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It's based on that, but because it's evolved based on the habits of people and the way they have constructed their civilizations, the whole thing about arba'a burud, which was they used to have in order to send letters and items from city to city and to send messages, the Khalifa will send a message to his Amir, for example, right? They would use horses, and in order to get from to long distances in as little time as possible, they wouldn't just use one postman, right, to go from one point A to point B. What they'll have in between point A and point B is all these other points, right? And these were called burud, barid. So the person on horseback who's carrying the letter or the item or whatever of importance will get to barid number 1, and it'll be a certain distance. It'll be
It's
a short
sorting
distance.
office,
Yeah.
like the post office.
They will give that letter to another person, and he will go from the next the next barid to the next barid, and then the next barid to the next barid, and someone else will take it, and it will get in a lot less time because the horse won't be tired. The person doesn't need refreshments and doesn't need a rest from traveling, and so on and so forth. So within the space of like a day or less than a day, you end up getting your item to a certain location. So DHL and all these other companies today have got nothing on the barid system of the Islamic empire. Mashallah.
The idea that we should not forget is not all A'immah have limited the traveling to. Some have actually not given a distance, like Imam Ahmad, who says it's based on urf.
Yeah.
If you consider yourself a traveler,
Yeah,
if that
yeah,
is called traveling and not just commuting, it's traveling. Then
and they used to have these other things as well about when your actual travel actually starts. So they would say that you have to get to the edge of the city.
Yeah.
And that's when your travel starts. So you're not considered a musafir until you get to that point.
Yeah.
So you're still, if you left in the morning, right, and you go to the edge of the city, and by the time you get to the edge of the city, dhuhr kicks in. You still have to pray dhuhr 4 rak'at. You can't shorten it.
Yeah, because you haven't come out.
And then only when you've reached that point and then you've started that safar.
Cities
then
have like the city of London is like huge.
And even then,
it take you 3 hours just to go from across it. So now you'd say your borough, right? Once you come out from your immediate area, then it's
so
the musafir.
the point of sort of mentioning all of this stuff, just so the guys aren't at home like lost and stuff, like what are these people talking about, is that fiqh is ever evolving. Well, certain elements of it, obviously there's certain elements that are thabit that will never change, but there's certain elements of it that they are deduced from the life of the Prophet ﷺ, from what he did and how he did it, and how, based on that, how things change in a person's life and how civilization changes. Those ahkam will evolve with that change in civilization as well. So the potentially the old ways of doing it don't necessarily apply, but the origins or the source and the reason behind those ahkam still applies. So traveling, there was always an element of hardship in it, madinat al-mashaqqa. So traveling, no matter what you do, whether it's traveling for a day or traveling by plane or traveling by horseback, traveling by walking, all of that travel has mashaqqa in it. As long as there's a mashaqqa in it, there is the dispensation of shortening your prayers, breaking your fast. But obviously, as you said, Shaykh, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Can we prepare food for non-fasting person while we are fasting? This is a
obviously our the adults have to take care of the
children and stuff.
And
people who have a restaurant and if people have a cafe or a restaurant, Sheikh,
yeah, absolutely,
they're still good to run their business,
if
right?
that is their work, then there's no harm in it. Absolutely.
Okay. If someone sleeps through suhoor and misses the chance to eat, can they still fast?
Yes, they can, but they have to have made intention before suhoor. So intention is an obligation in the fast of Ramadan. The time of intention is between Maghrib and Fajr Salah, according to all the ulama, and then beyond Fajr Salah, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, up to midday, even in the Faridah. So, once Ramadan is announced, then every night just make the intention, just in your mind, that I'm going to fast tomorrow to fulfill my obligation. So if a person had made that intention and then went to sleep and failed to wake up for suhoor, they've made the intention, they wanted to wake up for suhoor, so the intention is already there. They can continue fasting, no problem.
MashaAllah. What advice do you have for staying productive and keeping the Ramadan spirit alive during the lockdown?
I think, lockdown or no lockdown, it doesn't make a change. The only difference is that you're not going to be able to spend as much time in the masjid. Other than that, your ibadah is a private matter that is done behind closed doors. So the things that we mentioned are the things that you have to do, inshallah Azza wa Jal, in order to make your Ramadan productive.
What do the scholars say, Sheikh, about marriage, speed dating, when brothers and sisters go to an event to meet each other? Yes, mashallah. Shout out to the brother asking this question. So you have these events now, Sheikh, right? It's like, you know, brothers, sisters, they're all looking to get married. They get together in a hall, you know, table to table, you know, get to know each other, 3 minutes type thing. Speed marriage. You look at me like that, Sheikh.
I'm trying to think.
It's not me, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Don't judge me, man.
Yeah. I guess, you know, when brothers and sisters come to this point, usually they will have exhausted all other means. And, you know, it's the desperation, you know, allows for these measures to be sort of created. As long, look, it's all down to the intention. So if a person goes with the right intention and adopts the etiquettes of Sharia, then there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah, it's just
so a wali being present, another person being present, and then ensuring that you don't use that meeting or that opportunity to go into a haram relationship. This is where the worry is. I mean, it's a place where people can meet, and whether they're going to get married or not, Allah knows.
For real.
So you just have to, you know, be careful that you are not tempted either by yourself or by somebody else to fall into haram. Yeah. So as long as it's under the restrictions of Sharia, I guess, you know, it's
sign of the times, though, Sheikh. It's a sign of the times. I think it's a necessity of the time as well.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go so far as calling the people who use that sort of service desperate or anything like that. But I think there's a need to. Yeah, obviously, I know what you mean. Just to clarify that, so no one says
the whole,
like, you know,
the whole community.
It's a need to network, Sheikh.
Yeah.
People don't know each other anymore. So check this out, yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot as well. That in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, and even thereafter, right? There was this connection between people, and there was this networking between people, and there was a trust between people as well. That I know you, and I trust you, and I love you, so I can trust that I will get my daughter married to your son, or to you, or to, do you know what I'm saying? Like whoever it is that I'm speaking to. And there was this suhbah that they had, right? And this suhbah, it transcended this companionship. It transcended just like, you know, a mutual, you know, you're an imam, so I'm an imam, so we know each other. Or we work in the same kind of profession, so we know we're acquaintances. Or we come to the same masjid, and we know each other, and we speak and stuff like that. But
we live in the same neighborhood.
yeah, but there's not that suhbah that was there before. So, you know, who do you trust now with your daughter? Like, you can't just like, yeah, okay, this brother, I'm happy with his manners and it's sort of like, you know, who are you? Who are you really? Who are you behind closed doors? And that sort of thing.
Even the
Do you know what I
people
mean?
you pray with in the masjid, you don't know them.
Yeah. So there's this real like sort of disconnect between us, and I suppose it's a reflection of our disconnect with Allah, our disconnect with the Deen, that we have a disconnect with each other, and then it's the.
But I think it's also the times and the place that we are living in.
Yeah, which has a total disconnect to Allah.
When you go back home.
Yeah.
In Morocco.
Yeah.
For example, or Pakistan or wherever. Somalia, and people have this. There is this community, sense of community, and people know of each other. They know about each other. You can go to somebody and ask, and they'll give you the whole life history of their neighbors, and even more in the sort of smaller cities and maybe in the villages, more than the major cities. The problem with the major cities is the vastness and the amount of people living. Do you know what I mean? And that is also a reason for the disconnect.
That's one of the reasons, but you think that with so many people, you get to know so many more people, right? You get to network with so many more people.
But then our lives are so busy, and there's like
but it's the culture,
commitments and the entertainment. But there is a culture not to engage with strangers and
not to trust either, and to live your life by a certain code, and that code is mainly based on material things and wealth and that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So all of those things, you couple it all together, Sheikh. There's no way that you can have that networking ability that's going to enable you to get married to someone that you like and that is worth getting married and stuff. So, and then the desires, Sheikh, man. The fact that it's just free for all and open fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want to fulfill your desires, if ample opportunity, there's apps that enable you to do that. You don't have to go through the hassle of dating anybody anymore.
Yeah.
You know, those sorts of things. So all these challenges that people are facing, right? And you want to go down the halal route of getting married and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that path is just filled with so many different obstacles that, you know, people have to resort to these sorts of things, which are, you know, they're kind of looked down upon by people. Like, you sort of look at you like, oh, you're going to this marriage event, right? Is that how desperate you are, that you have to go to a marriage event in order to find someone to get married? It's like, well, yeah, unless you're going to find me someone, then don't talk to me about this. Do you know what I mean? So
generally, the people that will mock it are the ones who are doing the least in order to help people get in married.
So subhanallah, man, it's a real challenge, man, a real challenge, and we recognize that challenge as well, and hopefully, inshallah, in the future we can do something about that. So there's a little bit
the question, you know, as long as it's done with the right intention.
Absolutely.
And, you know, following the etiquettes of Islam, etiquettes of interaction with the opposite gender, then there's no harm, inshallah.
All right, Sheikh. What if our spouses refuse to fast? Are we allowed to continue serving them food?
No. If your spouse refuses to fast,
like intentional, like I don't want to fast.
Yeah. You don't serve them food,
Yeah,
because then you will be accomplice to the sin
and supporting them in
tell them go Subway
in their disobedience. Yeah. Subway.
But on a serious note, if your spouse is not wanting to fast, you need to reconsider your marriage, because one who does not fulfill, even from a physical perspective, the right of Allah will never fulfill your right. Yeah. They are with you because it pleases them at the time, but the moment that changes, they will leave you, because they have no loyalty, you see. If you don't have loyalty to your Creator, okay, you can't maintain the fast the way it's supposed to be, no problem, but at the very least, you have people who are drug addicts and, you know, drink alcohol and what have you, and they still fast out of loyalty, right, to the month of Ramadan. There's people who don't pray who still fast. They say, well, brother, the prayer is a bit difficult and all this, but I still fast Ramadan. If a person is intentionally not fasting,
there's something there, isn't it? Yeah, huge problem. All right. What is the ruling on making up missed Ramadan fasts in winter, when, as we know, the days are short?
Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing from Allah Azza wa Jal.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Why not?
You can do it. What is special about fasting so that Allah singled it out when He said, "Fasting is for me, and I shall reward. I shall reward for it. I shall reward it." The
reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala singled it out is that all other forms of worship, people do them for others.
And it's
then
seen,
Allah,
isn't it?
other than Allah. We bow down for Allah, other people bow down for their idols and for whatever, right? Fast is the only worship that can only be done for Allah. It cannot be done for an idol, it cannot be done for Jesus Christ. It cannot be done for another human being, because that human being has no way of knowing. Do you know what I mean? No way of knowing. Only Allah knows that you are fasting for Him, and He knows that you are not eating behind closed doors.
Every action, Shaykh, that we do, every ibadah that we do, the more secret that it is, the more beloved it is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like, you know, you have a confidant, you have a best friend. The more you tell them and tell them only, exclusivity, right, in the rights of the relationship, the more you guys will be closer. So same thing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more ibadah is done and no one else can see it, the more beloved it is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting, nobody can see the hunger that you have, right? Obviously, maybe if you get like really parched and your lips become dry, but that might be because you just haven't had water and you've been really busy at work, right? So like no one can see your hunger, no one can feel what you feel as well, right? No one can recognize you and say, I think you're fasting today, aren't you? Yeah, I guess, yeah. You know what I mean? There's no outward action that you can do that shows that you're fasting, right? It's an abstinence, it's total abstinence, that's all. So that's why it's like...
You have to tell people. This is why Rasulullah said that فَإِن سَابَّهُ أَوْ أَحَدٌ أَوْ whatever the word is, فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. Let, if you get into an argument or a commotion with somebody, then let him know that you are fasting. Tell him, I am fasting. Because there's no other way of knowing.
Yeah, I've had two different sort of understandings to that hadith. One of them is, say to the person who's arguing with you, I'm fasting, so that he realizes, okay, I'm not gonna bother you. It could also mean, say to yourself, I am fasting, to remind yourself that, look, don't get involved in any of this stuff. Don't, you know what I mean, so that you ruin your fast and stuff like that. So also, one of the reasons, one of the sort of implications of that hadith about فَإِنَّ الصَّوْمَ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ, that fasting is for me and I'm the one who rewards it, is that the ulama, they say that for every sin there is an expiation from your deeds, except for fasting. So if there is a naqs in your fara'id, for example, that's taken from your nawafil and fulfilled, right? If there is some sayyat that you've done to somebody else, it's taken from your salah, it's taken from your dhikr, it's taken from something else. But yeah, it's not taken from your fasting. Yeah, فَإِنَّ الصَّوْمَ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. That's mine. It's for me, isn't it? So that's another benefit. SubhanAllah. Can one make the intention for the whole month of Ramadan at the beginning? So
if
Ramadan. Because some of the fuqaha, they say that Ramadan is one action.
Yeah.
Because it can't be envisaged that you can fast a nafila in Ramadan. It just can't. It just won't work, because it's all of it is fard. So
not only that, if you have intention to fast the first day, then you will have intention to fast the whole month.
Yeah.
Nobody makes intention. Oh, actually, I'm gonna fast.
Just gonna fast. A couple of days in Ramadan. I'll take a break.
Okay, for children, yes, because they're getting used to fasting. But anybody who's an adult,
yeah.
So the safest and the majority opinion is you should still make intention for every single day.
Yeah.
One single intention will not be enough. That is a minority opinion. It is the opinion of Imam Malik rahmatullah alayh.
Yeah.
That one is enough for as long as you are fasting continuously. But then if you break the fast due to an illness or traveling in the month of Ramadan, or you are exempt from fasting, then you have to reinstate your intention.
That's where the khilaf comes in, isn't it? Yeah. And then we do things in Ramadan that connote an intention anyway. So when we wake up for suhoor,
that's it.
Even if we don't say, like, I'm going to fast tomorrow, like, you have that intention in your mind, you're doing all the actions that dictate that you're going to be fasting tomorrow. Yes. So it fulfills the intention anyway. When should the muezzin break his fast? Before the
I just remembered something, but yeah.
You got to share it now, Sheikh. You can't do that. You can't just sit there and laugh.
This idea we were talking about fasting, that nobody can actually see that you're fasting. There's this joke about some guy entering the masjid and some people were sitting down. So he started offering salah, long qiyam and qira'ah, mashallah, and ruku'. And then he was in sujood for ages. And the people amongst themselves, they said, Ya Allah, look at this guy, proper saint, man. Look at his salah. We wish we were praying salah like that. So when he finishes salah, he says, brothers, I'm also fasting.
Ya Allah, the riya, man.
Alhamdulillah. You have people like that. Alhamdulillah, brother, I did this. Don't say it.
Yeah, it takes
I'm
away
only
from
telling people, I'm not telling you, I'm only telling you so that you're encouraged. Don't encourage anyone. Don't tell people what you are doing.
Allahu Akbar. When should the muezzin break his fast, Sheikh? Before the adhaan or after the adhaan?
Before the adhaan.
Is it? He's got like a bit of like
when the time.
Tamar in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of the kajur there. Like, Allah.
Yeah.
The seedling is coming out and he says, Allahu Akbar. Yeah, before. Is regarding the time of suhoor. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and eat and drink until the white thread becomes clear to you from the black thread of the dawn. Is that the question? Does this mean we can eat until the sun starts to rise? Then why do we stop at adhaan of fajr which is more than an hour before
The
sunrise.
sun, if it was the sun starting to rise, then Allah would not use the term thread, because the sun, coming out is not.
But then he uses the word fajr as well. حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر. Fajr is dawn, right? Not sunrise.
So the light, the thread appearing is the light of the sun. As the sun is coming up, it is going to appear on the horizon as a thread initially. That is the
obviously we don't see that today because we just see like houses and buildings.
Yeah.
So the only thread that we're going to see the horizon is people's lights on in the houses. Allahu Akbar. Is there any difference of opinion? I think we're ended this one, Sheikh. Is there any difference of opinion from the four schools of thought in terms of paying kafarah in Ramadan? Like, so kafarah is different types, isn't it, Sheikh? Like, you can either
You don't pay kafarah in Ramadan.
Kafarah for missing a fast intentionally.
Fidya. I think the person needs to ask the question in more detail. They need to ask the question in more detail, because kafarah is not specific to, you're not restricted to do it in Ramadan. Actually, kafarah cannot be done in Ramadan because
Maybe
it has to be done after Ramadan.
Paying kafarah for Ramadan.
Okay, for Ramadan,
that.
yes. There is a difference of opinion because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have taught us that the kafarah is to fast two consecutive months. No, actually, to free a slave is the first one, and then to fast 2 consecutive months, and then to feed 60 people. 60 people who are in need of feeding, right? Poor people. According to some ulama, you have the option 1. If you can't do that, then option 2. Then if you can't do that, then option 3. This is Imam Abu Hanifa. I think Imam Malik has the same opinion. I don't know about the other Imams. And then other Imams say, actually, no, you have the option. Allah says
you can choose whichever one you want to do.
So obviously freeing a slave, that's out of the question. So you have 2 options: either fast 2 consecutive months or feed 60 people. There's
actually I think this associated to Imam Malik about whether the kafarah is, so for example, a person who has many servants, many slaves, to free a slave for them isn't
a big deal.
Is a big deal. So it's just like, I won't fast in Ramadan, fine, he's a free slave, it's all done, right? So for that particular person, fasting 2 months, that's going to be someone's rich, plenty of money, right? So he doesn't fast Ramadan and he's sittina miskina. I'll pay for their food, job done, no problem. And he does this every year, sittina miskina.
Yeah, but
do you know what I mean?
So for every day, Sheikh.
Still, he's got the money for it, so he just doesn't want to fast in it. So
for
that person,
about this, I think was it last Ramadan or Ramadan before that, they were talking about some football players doing this. Paying kafarah. It's a joke.
Yeah, there was that going on as well. So there is some difference of opinion about that, but generally speaking,
the safest, to be honest, see, the kafarah is
fast
Ramadan.
Just keep your fast. You don't have to worry about kafarah.
The safest is actually to fast the 2 consecutive months, right? Because freeing a slave is no longer an option.
Yeah.
Now, fasting 2 consecutive months, unless a person is physically unable to do that because they are weak or they have a sickness or what have you, only then they should go to the next option, which is feeding 60 people. But don't make a judgment yourself. Ask a scholar.
Get advice on it.
So that you are not following your desire in selecting what you want. And also, it's important to know that in the Hanafi madhab, if a person has broken a number of fasts in the same Ramadan, they only have 1 kafarah. So they have to make up all of those days. So let's say, for example, a person ate the whole Ramadan. And this is where ikhtilaf sometimes becomes rahmah. Because in the Maliki madhab, for example, or the other madhab, you would have to do a kafarah for each fast that you broke. So if you had 30 fasts, you have to make up those 30 fasts, and then you have to fast, Ya Allah.
900 days, isn't it?
And this is why Rasulullah said that a person who eats 1 day of Ramadan intentionally, they cannot make it up even if they fast their entire life.
Wow.
The kafarah is just to absolve you of responsibility and so that you're not punished. But the reward you will not get. The reward of Ramadan is beyond you.
Intihak.
Yeah. So
Allahu Akbar.
if a person has broken a number of fasts for one Ramadan, then they start to do kafarah, then they only have to do one kafarah per Ramadan, per month. So Ramadan 1440, one kafarah. Ramadan 1439, one kafarah. Yeah. But they still have to make up those days. Right?
Yeah.
So the kafarah is in addition to making up the days.
Qada and kafara, isn't it? So that's called qada. So making up making up the fast of Ramadan is called qada, and expiation of breaking the fast intentionally, that's kafara. Last question, Sheikh: should a UK resident pay fidya as per UK rate or overseas cheaper rate? I pay fidya in rupees. It's like £1, 120 something rupees to £1. Yallah, if you know these people.
You pay fidya in accordance to the country and the currency
Yeah,
that you
definitely.
are living in, right? And then if you are sending it abroad and they're getting more, they're getting 5 times what they would get from a local person, then alhamdulillah is good for them.
But it's got to be local, Sheikh, man. We've got to start thinking locally now. Like I think we've gone beyond the times where, you know, our parents or our parents' parents, they were immigrants and they came to the country. So their thoughts and their minds were very much back home. Everything was back home. They worked for back home. They worked for their families back home. You still have families like that now, but you know, we're now like sort of first generation, second generation, third generation
There's people struggling,
Muslims,
there's
right?
people struggling. You hear it on the
Hardcore.
news. There's people who have, in winter, they have to pick between putting the heat on or putting food on the table. You know, either they put the heating on and they will eat like just canned food. They can't have a proper meal. Or they have to reduce the heating in order to be able to buy ingredients to cook a proper meal.
That's here,
So
right?
there's
In the
people who are
UK.
in need in and around your locality. So look for those people. And this is one of the efforts and the rewards of the sadaqah is you being concerned and going and searching for the people who are in need. Unfortunately now the Islamic charities do it all for us. But
Well, that's kind
it's
of
a good thing.
kind of a good thing, but not in the sense that a person is no longer connected anymore, right? We were talking the other day about there's a difference between a person knowing that there are fuqara and having affection for them and love for them and wanting to help them, and actually having that affection and actually helping them out. Those are two different things. So it's very easy just to go to like a website, you know, type in a couple of numbers, card details, press a button, and job done. You fulfilled your obligation, right? You fulfilled like the requirement of you assisting someone who is in need, but then there's, you know, that cut off between you and actually, you know, assisting physically, being there, seeing them, and that sort of thing. I think that's kind of missing. Not necessarily that a person has to do those things like all the time, but in that there has to be that element of helping out, of you know, that voluntary assistance in their lives.
Well, perhaps, Sheikh, when you do this, I just had this thought just now.
Go on.
Because we talked about this last week, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, when the obviously these paying Islamic charities has pros and cons. I think one of the pros is that it actually is definitely considered sadaqatul sir.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
That's a good
there
point.
can be nothing more secret than that.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know.
How much you've given,
the
right?
person who's receiving, not the person who's standing. It's just between you. You know, obviously, because both of your hands are working, probably, so they both know. It's not like, you know, the hadith says, حتى لا تعلم شماله ما تنفق يمينه. But you know, it's very secret.
Yeah.
So there is, alhamdulillah, still benefit.
Yeah,
to
there's a lot of khair.
giving
There's a lot
it
of
to the
khair.
charities.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, their reach is far
Greater.
than
Greater.
ours, and you know, there's borders between you and these people who are in need and in difficulty that perhaps you're not able to reach.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As long as one doesn't overlook the needs of their locality.
If
and
you
the
know
local
of
community.
someone in your locality, then it should be given in your locality. If you don't know of someone in your locality, then it should be given out, because obviously the sadaqatul fitr is specific to Eid, so it should reach the people before Eid.
Yeah.
Right? If you can't find somebody in those couple of days, and you don't know anyone, you've asked around and you don't know
Yeah.
anyone who's in need, then give it to a charity and let
Yeah,
it be
yeah.
sent abroad.
Well, we do something similar here, don't we, Sheikh? Like we do this like financial aid thing, where we
Yeah.
assist like families and brothers and sisters in need in the
Sadaqat
community.
al-Fitr, we still give it to a charity
Yeah, that we give out.
because
yeah.
we want to make sure that it's received. Brother Faisal, may Allah reward him, he used to like give it in the beginning of Ramadan or something.
Yeah, he gives it on
before
account.
time,
yeah, he gives it on account.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
To
And then
ensure that
whatever is
people
collected
receive it
afterwards.
for Ramadan.
Yeah, fantastic,
or
mashallah.
for Eid.
Really good stuff. Alhamdulillah. All right, brothers and sisters, I think we'll call that an end. Inshallah, this is going to be our last session before Ramadan. We're not going to continue during Ramadan. There will be a lot of other things going on. Imam Osama is going to give daily reminders every day of Ramadan after Asr. There's also going to be recitation of the Quran just after that as well until just before Maghrib as well. So
And a brief Q&A session in between
yes,
the two.
yes, of course, yeah. There's going to be a Q&A session after that as well, inshallah.
What we want is for people to have access to the Imams or giving their questions in relation to their fasts. So practical questions that you face. Okay, not some hypothetical.
Yeah.
And we're going, because it's going to be after Asr.
She's going to be tired, let's go hungry.
Has given a talk, right? So you may not get the best of answers.
Have mercy, guys, have
Keep
mercy.
them just, I'm
going to come on in a different account and just be like, what do you do, Sheikh, if you put
So what do you think about?
SubhanAllah. So there's that stuff going on. I myself are going to do a Rabbana series, Sheikh, where I go through the du'as in the Quran. That's going to be a late night session as well, so around about 10:30 after Taraweeh. You guys are chilling, inshallah, at home. Log on and you can tune into that as well. So plenty of things going on in Ramadan. I'm sure other masajid are doing a lot of other things as well. We can network with them, hopefully, inshallah, and we can spread the benefit. And then that way, inshallah, there'll be a Q&A session with Imam Osama. There'll be opportunity to ask questions as well in the late night session. So there's all of the questions that you want to ask now, don't ask them, or you can ask them at a later stage, inshallah. So I suppose Eid Mubarak, and until after Eid, right? Then
Ramadan Mubarak and Eid Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak, Eid Mubarak, and then we'll see you after that, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for tuning in, guys. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.